So welcome back, guys. We had a fantastic first game, and I can tell you now, a lot of the first games are really grinding and dragging on, to say the least. There will be a touch of a change. Now, after seeing how well Virtus.Pro are playing, I think it'd be a mistake not to see them again, and they will be facing off against Dragonborns next. So we thought we were going to jump into that one. eSuba and, well, Mousesports, the games they initially are starting to play, you know, are taking their time. So it's best just to kind of hop into the next one because, well, this is going to be fantastic. Obviously, we do see the rankings second and eighth there. They're not too far apart. We've shown you how close the league was. Check it out on WoT Pro League.com, almost, and see exactly how close the scoreboard is at the moment, because it is ridiculous. Just that top, I'd say up to the top ninth. Just that top ninth bracket is fantastically close. If one team goes on a real hot streak, or one team goes on a really a bad streak, to say the least, they can pretty much switch and change places. It's unreal. So these two are going to be battling it out. And I've got to ask you towards this one. Virtus.Pro on paper clearly should be the victor. But do you think that we might see an upset here? Because we've seen them push their limits. They looked very strong in the first game, but that was against GF Gaming, who are at the very bottom of the league. Dragonborns certainly are not. Yeah. So could this be a game we see a bit of a change here?
I mean, what's nice about this game is that Dragonborns actually have the potential. GF Gaming, I think, a bit too inexperienced, especially in this Pro League format, best of 5. But Dragonborns here, they have the experience, they have the players, they have the potential, they have the results, more importantly, against the top teams. Obviously, our fourth place finisher at DreamHack Season 1 finals. And they did pretty well against Virtus.Pro back then. Losing narrowly on the last game, lost it 3-2. So pretty close game, and that was in the losers bracket for Dragonborns, obviously the winners bracket for Virtus.Pro in the playoffs day 2. So that was a really, really close game. So far, not so good for them. I mean, they lost 3-0 in match day 7 against them. So, you know, on paper, as you said, it's definitely going towards Virtus.Pro. But as I said, Dragonborns, they have the player potential. If they have the 7 players which they play more regularly with, Season 1 players, obviously their big problem, you heard on the esports show, that they're losing a lot of players through holidays and work. I think one of them is in Afghanistan flying jets or something. It's the
Tanks are not enough. He wants a real jet as well. Dear God.
Exactly. I mean, so that's the problem those guys have. But if they turn up and they do well and they get themselves knuckled down here, Virtus.Pro could be in trouble.
Yeah, they're certainly a dangerous team. That's the one thing with Dragonborns. They're very capable. They've had a bit of an up and down season. I don't think they've had the most easy run through. I think they've had various results that don't really reflect their ability, just affected by the sheer amount of issues they've had. But as you said, if the composition is right today, they're certainly a team that are very dangerous. Now, I'm not sure how I want to call this one, because I've seen Virtus.Pro play, and they are the safe bet. But Dragonborns can bring up some really surprising results. They lost to Kaz and the crew, they've lost to a couple of very good teams, but they always challenge. And it was a shame to see them go 0-3 against Virtus.Pro originally in this early season. But, they're certainly a team that can dig deep. I think it's going to be a close game.
I think so. I mean, you got to remember that these 3-0s don't necessarily mean they're not close games.
Exactly. You don't see how close it is in the actual match.
I mean, a 3-2 could really be as close as a 3-0. Even a 3-0 could be closer, because it could be in those 3 matches that there was 1 against 1 and one had the luck, I guess. I mean, if they got a high damage roll or something.
It can come down to it.
The good teams you'll see 3-0ing more, but they're always close. And as I said, it's about keeping those tanks alive. That's often the difference between the good and the slightly lower teams. But Dragonborn's definitely not a lower team, so 3-0 not reflected of their actual skill. I think that's pretty much the underlying comment here.
And that's a major thing, especially with Virtus.Pro. They're a team that, no matter how close the game is, they normally seem to be able to finish them out very well. They always seem to be able to close out games, whereas a lot of teams struggle at that point. No matter how close it gets, they always seem to be able to kind of go, right, let's get this one locked down now. Let's make the most of any situation we're left in. So we are going to obviously get our thoughts out of the way. Now, you know where we stand on this matter. We're sitting on the fence almost. I think I'm going to go for Dragonborns. I like an underdog. What can I say? I've got to give them a little bit of a favouring there, just because they're fighting up. But I'm guessing you're Virtus.Pro on this one, or
it's annoying because Dragonborns is kind of my old team, but
where's the faith and love?
I know. I feel bad, but I've got to say Virtus.Pro. Someone's going to abuse me for that, I know. Gamescom's getting close, I know someone's going to abuse me for that.
Wow, even my heart bleeds. But anyway, that's our thoughts towards this. I know a certain someone who can give you exactly how you guys can get your thoughts towards us and give us your predictions, because that's what really matters. I don't want codes. You guys, on the other hand, like freebies, and this is how you can get hold of them. So, Melly, What are your thoughts towards the game then, my dear?
Magus, go for it.
Team Magus over there.
Exactly.
Now you'll see why the T1's
I need a
useful.
flag.
Yeah.
Let me just put this away. I'm sorry. Yeah, your predictions via Twitter, please, because I don't have a graphic, sadly, because this match wasn't really scheduled. And yeah, keep your thoughts coming. Keep your predictions. I don't know what's wrong with me today. I'm so sorry. Well, keep your predictions coming, and yeah, bonus codes as well for the first right prediction via Twitter using the hashtag WoT Pro League. Also, questions and opinions and feedbacks and whatever you like to tell me, I will read it, promise. And maybe I will read it out loud.
Maybe.
Maybe.
If we're lucky.
If we're lucky, exactly.
Who knows? We've got to work for it. But anyway, obviously, Melly's let you know how you guys can get involved there, and you should do it. You know, get tweeting at us, get on Facebook, let us know your predictions, because you know ours. I'm sitting here with Dragonborns, his old team of all things, basically, and he's gone against them. He's turned to the dark side.
Making me feel bad for this, aren't you? You're making me feel really bad. I got like a tear coming down my eye now. Magus, annoyingly, is going to have a really big go at me. I mean, I see that guy like every week. But then, you know, he's a T1 player. You asked us why the T1's useful. I think we'll probably see the reason coming up here. He's going to be the star player.
Oh, look at him backtracking.
I
look at it.
I'm trying to make up for the fact that I said no Dragonborns.
Can you guys hear that at home? The backtracking there. Oh, it's unbelievable.
Discovered.
Oh, you're a horrible person.
Thank you very much.
You're more than welcome.
Yeah.
But anyway, obviously these guys are just getting ready for this. They have come off of a previous game. We did see, obviously, Virtus.Pro up against GF Gaming. It was, I wouldn't necessarily say a close game. I think that Virtus.Pro are a team that will always pounce on any mistakes that are made. And I think GF Gaming kind of showed their hand in that aspect and allowed them to we'll make the most of it as such, putting it that way, in a nice way. But I don't think Dragonborns are going to do that here. I think they're going to be a team that will certainly know who they're coming up against. They've faced off before. You said it yourself. They faced off a DreamHack. They know exactly what they're facing. And Virtus.Pro are a dangerous team. They're a team that can strike fear in people's hearts in a way. Just seeing that name, you're like, geez, these were the guys in the first season who barely lost a game, and in the second season, they may have, you know, dropped 2 games, but it's still certainly nothing you can take for granted. These guys are hungry, and as you said, they faced off Dignitas recently again, and they're trying to correct any sort of mistakes that are made. And looking at the first game, they look extremely strong. So Dragonborns, I'd be a little bit worried if I was them. If there was any time to, you know, topple Virtus.Pro, it will be now, but they're looking like they're well aware of their downfalls, and they're getting back into it. But I think we will be going on to the first map of Steps here. Now, who do you think that one's going to favour? We've seen the play style of Virtus.Pro. We've seen how they go about things. They're a very clinical team. They're very much, they execute every strategy very well. They can close out games. They're your all-rounders. They're not necessarily, you know, your spales with your crazy tactics every now and then. But, you know, they play it very well. They just play good World of Tanks. Now, Dragonborns, on the other hand, on Steps, how do you think these guys are going to face off against this? Who's going to really benefit from this map?
I think Virtus.Pro, they have the experience, obviously, of those 4 seasons of Style Ladder, where they're playing Steps a lot. I mean, Dragonborns has Go for WoT, which did have Steps at one point as kind of backup experience, but it's really one of those maps which they haven't got a lot of experience on. I think they would even be more comfortable on a map like Airfield, where they had a few wins under their belt against Virtus.Pro. But Steps, really, Virtus.Pro have the advantage. I mean, okay, they didn't have Season 1 to practice the map like the Russian teams, but they have the background experience, and that's so important.
That's important.
I mean, even if it's not about, you know, the tank lineups were different and stuff than it was back then, that background, that core, that centering, you know, know where the strengths of the maps are, knowing where you put your tanks, you know, whether it's safe, you know, how long it takes to drive to the caps, etc., etc., etc. I think Virtus.Pro is going to be almost impossible for Dragonborns to win on it. But, you know, Dragonborns, they have to kind of get themselves in the, you've got to get a foot in the door here. They've got to, you know, perhaps catch one of the MX-3090s out, see if they can really turn it around, and if they can get Virtus.Pro on the back foot, then, you know, their slight inexperience could come into this as well.
And I've got to ask, who should give you your standout players on this? You've already tried to, you know, cover your tracks with Magus as such, but is he who you're going to be backing for this as your standout player, or are you going to, you know, once again sell out your old buddies and, you know, be a bit mean? No? No?
I think Crux is going to be our standout player. I mean, we've seen him play at really good games, especially if he plays at WZ132. I say that tentatively because I haven't really seen a player play it really well. He has done a couple of good games in it, but I think he will be their standout player. He's really started to develop as a player, and strangely enough, he was awful I mean, sorry to him, but he'll probably agree with me. He will agree with me.
God,
That's
hold
the
on.
thing.
Can you see that bridge on fire? I can almost see you burning all these bridges around here, Oliver. Dear God. He's a horrible, horrible person
But
today.
he'll agree with me. He was a kind of a subpar player, but he's developed so much. He's so, he's enriched his gameplay so much that now he's like one of the best players and probably the top 5 of the Pro League. So, going from being pretty subpar to going to that level, it's the journey which a lot of pro players have gone through. And I'm glad he's done it because he's spectacular.
Yeah, and you have to be humble to go through it as well. And it's nice to have that retained at that top level because every now and then, you do have to kind of review yourself, go over the way you played, and kind of take note of where you're standing. And sometimes, making sure you kind of fought your way up from being the weak link in the team to one of the strongest, you get respected throughout the whole team. So if you call something, they're instantly there, and it's a fantastic way to make your way through. I think these guys are almost ready, I assure you. They're just making sure they're going through those last-minute strategies to make sure they're ready for their opponent, because I'm sure Dragonborns have something in the bag. They're a team that always seem to be able to pull something out. And Virtus.Pro, I've never seen them necessarily adapt instantly to a team, but it's always that kind of midway adaptation. They always seem to be able to deal with anything anyone throws at them instantly. They have that on-the-fly adaptation. They can go, okay, we may be down this tank, but let's adjust this way. Let's bring it out that. They always seem to be on the fly, very good at it. So I'm going to be interesting to see how they kind of face off against each other. Actually, I think we've actually changed right with Prokhorovka. Now, that's going to be surely in favour to Virtus.Pro here. Surely. I think we saw them last game on this up against GF Gaming. Now, that's...
It could, it was a rollover to say the least, despite the T32's best efforts. But Prokhorovka, one of those maps Virtus.Pro is pretty much unbeatable on. But Dragonborns did beat them at Gamescom DreamHack, so it could be an interesting one. But again, Dragonborns won it because of Dr. Tura not Dr. Tura, Magos in that artillery and one-shotting. I think it was a Melka in his AMX 3090, and that really put them forwards, and that won them the game. Obviously, without artillery, it's going to be hard. But Dragonborns, what they do really well as a team, they have the kind of execution down, and they have the player skill to a decent standard. Obviously not to Virtus.Pro's because they have a lot more experience in the game, and especially 7-7-42 format, best of 5. But they have the good execution when they get in there. Strategies are good as well. It's a good team generally. They need to really push it. They need to get the gameplay to the next level. And again, one of those teams towards the beginning of Season 3, perhaps going towards the end of it, really blossom.
Well, we're going to have to find out. I believe these guys are ready to get the tank picking underway, so let's nip over to that, and let's just have a little think about how they're going to kind of face off in this one, and what tanks you think we're going to be seeing here. I think the Virtus.Pro of all teams will very unlikely change anything up. We've obviously seen them stick with a similar lineup. It's always worked, it's always paid off, it's one of their stronger maps. But what do you think Dragonborns might bring out here?
Well, Virtus.Pro, we saw, double T69. I think it was 3 T69s, 2 AMX 1390s, 2 T1s against GF Gaming just now. I think we'll probably see them take the same tanks unless they start from the north, and then we'll probably have the AMX 3090 because they want the extra speed for the middle / the roadside to the left. Dragonborn's more likely to pick your unusual picks, as you said. WZ132 could come in there from Crooks. We'll have to see how that one plays out. That will probably be the last pick because you don't want to show your hand too early on. But I think, once again, AMX 1390s, T69, it's really about those two teams picking the good combination of those two tanks. You don't want to have too many T69s because they're too slow. You can't react to situations quick enough, but you don't have too many MX 1390s because they can be a really unreliable tank despite the changes to accuracy in 8.6. They can miss shells. Their aiming downtime is quite long. 40 seconds reload it's a long time to wait for your damage. I mean, obviously, it does 1,440. The T69 does 1,000 damage, and plus it has that 25 seconds reload. So generally, a more high damage dealing tank, more DPM. But I think it's really going to be about those two tanks in here. If they can use the MX 3090s to their advantage, get them round the team, get them in the back, get them in the sides, really get them in a good situation, good positioning, which is all about the MX 3090. You need to get it in that position to do the damage. If you can do that, I think it's probably a better tank than T69, but it's going to be between those two.
Well, We do see a couple of those 3090s coming out. I think that they might be listening somehow. It's almost like you know what you're saying sometimes, right?
It's good. It's a good feeling. It's a very good feeling.
Being right, it's a good feeling. It's a rare feeling for Dearest Laughter next to me, but nevertheless, he is correct on this one. We do see a couple of those T69s are coming out here, but as you said, 3090 being that first pick, it seems as though they want to be working with that there. And what do you think this really says to you? Is it just true to what you're saying, pretty much?
Yeah, the MX-3090s, T69s from both teams. 2 MX-3090s from Virtus.Pro and also 2 from Dragonborns as well. You know, they're going for the T69s, they're going for the MX-3090s, as I said. Light T69. I'm not sure if that is a mistype, but it could be that they're taking the T2 light tank, which is obviously that American T2 Tier 2 premium tank. One of the real stars of Season 1. You know, had the artillery in there, could use it to scout. You could use it to get into good positions. You could use it to cap faster than the T1, can do more damage than the T1. Obviously, it does the same damage, but slightly faster reload, and also has 150 HP to 110. Obviously, I'm not sure if they're actually doing that or not, but it does look like they are. Interesting pick from Dragonborns, just waiting on Virtus.Pro's pick. They're even questioning that. They're like, Cusack is asking, LT2 light? Question mark. Strange pick. A Lish Tractor. Okay, fair enough. Well, that's a really weird. That's like we've warped in from like 2011 and just come into Season 2. I'm not sure why they're taking a Lish Tractor. That's that Tier 1 German first Tier 1 tank.
Why?
It's like the tank you start off with.
Yeah, why?
I have no idea. I think they're trolling us.
They better be trolling.
This is the first for the Season 1, I believe. This is not Season 1. This is the first for Pro League in general, Season 1 and Season 2, taking Lift Tractor. Obviously, okay, it has a bit more armor, has a more high damage, high alpha gun than the T1. But in a one-on-one situation, that T1 is going to absolutely knock the Licht Tractor out of this universe. Tank picking continuing. T69s, AMX-1390s from both teams. The last pick from Dragonborns will be an AMX-1390, and the same goes for Virtus.Pro. But that, again, that Licht Tractor, I'm going to be really interested.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of that, if I'm honest. I don't know if Magus has kind of heard the abuse you were giving him as such. He's gone like, right then, this guy's been horrible. I'm going to make him watch me in the Licht Tractor there. So, who knows? Maybe he's just, you know, this is just a bit of payback.
In the what?
In Prokhorovka.
No. In the Licht Tractor.
I don't know what you're saying.
In the Licht. I want to say I want to hear you say Licht Tractor again.
I don't want to lick any tractor, but we are going to be going to Prokhorovka. So guys, get ready for the first map here in the second game. So welcome back. We will be seeing on that north point in blue Virtus.Pro, the not so reigning champions anymore, but certainly still one of the better teams out there, and really showed some pretty good class in that first game we saw. And in that south side, it will be the one and only Dragonborns. So what are we seeing so far here?
Dragonborns just going out the middle as per usual, although they've gone towards the left a little bit more. The T69s of UK and Crooks going there. Dr. 2 on the MX-1390 was threatened to back him up right to the left, actually, pushing towards the road line. Interesting little place for him. The UK also in the T69. I think those 4 tanks, the 2 MX-1390s plus the 2 T69s, could really be a problem for Virtus.Pro.
Yeah, Virtus.Pro, yeah, we're going to have to see how they deal with this one. Let's see exactly how they're starting out. I do see Delight there, just positioning themselves in that village. You see Just Cause edging ahead in that 1390, as he usually does, prowling around, just trying to get eyes on anything. A cheeky little spot could make all the odds for these guys, but no spots as of yet, just edging around. You can see him down by that K7 marker, just peering over the top of the defilade of that hill, but not being able to see anything. So Virtus.Pro being left in the dark as such at the moment, very, very early on, but nevertheless, they normally can deal with these situations quite nicely here. But what are we seeing coming out from Dragonborns at the moment?
Well, I think you have a standoff situation. It's guns at dawn for these two teams. Virtus.Pro have the village side. Dragonborns have the road/open area, and they know they have that area. And that's the nice thing about this map. You get your ground early on, you get your map part early on, and then you can kind of play out from that. Very interesting play from both teams. Kusok being spotted again, but Yukai taking 2 shots.
Yeah, Kusok being spotted was the exchange almost there, and I think that Virtus.Pro got the better of that little situation, landing 2 shells in quick succession. So Virtus.Pro with the slight upper hand initially, as long as they don't throw anything away, and they're certainly a team who normally, well, they certainly don't. They normally keep those advantages and work further forwards towards them. So we do see Delight in that 1390 as well, just rolling up and down, trying to keep eyes on, just on patrol almost here, trying to catch a glimpse of an opposing player, so further damage can be caused. But is this what we're going to be seeing now, pretty much? A standoff moment where obviously Dragonborn split off towards the west side of the map, whereas more the central part will be populated by Virtus.Pro here.
Yeah, I think that's probably what we're seeing. Quite, it's a bit unusual because you usually see the northern team going towards where Dragonborns is now, and the southern team usually takes that city village area, also with the mountain in the background. But it's something we do see more often. Dragonborns are the kind of guys who made this tactic up. They like going towards the western location, probably because if Virtus.Pro did decide to go towards the western side, then Dragonborns have a good strategy against that. They can catch the AMX 3090 out with Taurus in his T1, or perhaps even Magus in that Licht Tractor, and then they can really take it out really quickly. So obviously that didn't happen. Virtus.Pro, no. Dragonborn's tactic has obviously been watching some replays perhaps, and they've decided to go towards the village area. Yukai being trying to connect it again. I think he was actually spotted in that T69. Shell not landing actually. He's still sitting nicely to 921 HP, which is pretty fine. I mean, it's not going to worry too much about it. 2 fairly low damage rolls from Virtus.Pro, but Dragonborns, Virtus.Pro, it's going to be a close one. I think Dragonborns definitely can't make the first move here. That's the thing about when you have, Virtus.Pro has the cover. Yeah,
exactly that. The map is in their favor as such. There's certain parts of it that they can work with. You can see those blind shots coming in. Shells landing just on those railroad tracks, barely making it over, but one has connected. Karitz will go down in the T1, and Ram claiming the first frag, or the first tank, for Dragonborn. So it's not going too badly for them. A little bit of advantage. It's only 1 point, but a point nevertheless. So a little bit of the vision, a little bit of the feelers as such for Virtus.Pro have now been removed. So the initial damage, though, has been laid down, so I feel as though it's still pretty even. I don't feel as though Virtus.Pro have lost anything massive at the moment, but they don't want to lose any more. I think it's a little bit of a wake-up call. They put him out there to try and scout out a little bit using the Deflator of the Hill, maybe catch a couple of players and get a couple more spots out. Didn't work out. So clearly, Dragonborns have been going over the demos, watching how they play, how they go about things, and how they can counter it. And, well, so far, they're not doing a bad job of it.
Yeah, and that's obviously Karitz, the team leader of Virtus.Pro, going down, which could be seen as an advantage and a disadvantage. If you have your team captain out, he can lead the team from the front. He doesn't have to worry about playing his own tank. He can concentrate 100% on his team. Where they're going to go, what they're going to do, exactly the timing between their movements. So it could be an advantage, it could be a disadvantage. It depends on the team leader. Obviously, he's not going to be playing an AMX 1390 or a T69, so it's mitigated either way. But Dragonborns, they have the advantage. At least they know that one T1 can't actually spot them out. Crook's taking another shell down to 1-1-1-4. So many ones in there. As T69 being connected, probably by, I think that was an AMX 1390.
Yeah, I believe that was Rest in Peace there, just playing it very nicely. It's this stalemate moment where a pixel out of place will mean a shell does connect. Virtus.Pro will not miss that in any way, shape or form. So Rest in Peace, that 1390, as you mentioned, the one who did land that shell, just edging a little bit closer towards the opposition and retreating back. Yukai even once again showing his face, but not for long in that T69. So I feel as though Dragonborns have to be careful, because Virtus.Pro is certainly a team who will pick up the advantage. But right now, I do see Dr. Tor actually taking a bit of a detour right now and heading straight towards Rest in Peace, with Kusok almost on Overwatch. Delight joining in. He could be in trouble here.
Yeah, but he is a doctor, so he's going to stay healthy. It's Rest in Peace. He's going to be his adversary, AMX 3090 versus AMX 1390. Well, it's going to be kind of, they're going to spar a little bit. I don't think anyone's going to hit each other. I don't think anyone's really going to be in that much trouble. But Dr. Tor is actually, he's playing it pretty well. He's not moving too fast. He's staying covered. But this was the GF Gaming Virtus.Pro kind of engagement we had earlier. Obviously, GF Gaming had the whole team where Dr. Tor is now, whereas Melk actually taking down Taurus in his T1. I think that was a complete blind shot We can have a look where he is. I think he's towards the left. He is indeed. Brilliant shot by Melka. That's what you want. You want those blind shots to... Now it's one each. One T1 each.
Yeah, good exchange, bringing things back all even, and just showing that the HP advantage is now with Virtus.Pro. They've taken back that T1 disadvantage. Dr. once again showing his face, but Melka, and I believe is Delight, pushing all the way up to where Rest in Peace is. So this might be the start of something, but Dr. getting a little bit closer. Kusok is still keeping eyes on, just using those railroad tracks as best he can just to keep himself out of vision, and he has landed a great show onto Dr. Following up with a second, and here comes Just Cause, just demolishing the opposition very early on, and that's the advantage they wanted. Virtus.Pro, the patient team, finally pays off. They held their ground, and that's exactly why. Yeah,
rule 101 when you're playing a light tank as the AMX 3090, never stop moving. Dr. stopped moving next to the house. He thought he was unspotted, he thought he was safe. No way, not against Virtus.Pro. Couple of tanks in the middle, Rest in Peace towards the left, which he thought, okay, maybe my team can catch Rest in Peace out. They will be able to back me up if he does push me. Not enough time, you know. This is not 5-minute engagement. This is a couple of seconds to make a decision, to get out of a situation. And Rest in Peace playing it perfectly, spawning out for his team, getting the shots on, and, well, another tier 8 down for Dragonborns. And now, you know, it's 1-9, so they have the tier 8 point advantage Virtus.Pro. Obviously, our rule dictates if you have an 8-point advantage, then you win regardless of the timer. So if it goes down to 0, as Rest in Peace takes a shot on his AMX 3090, going down to 8-9-5, but not a big deal, and they're still pretty healthy. Virtus.Pro can still do a good push if they decide to.
Yeah, indeed. Both teams can make something happen here, and with 1 minute and 50 seconds on the board, Dragonborns are going to have to muster together and bring something out, because as you said, the tier points are against them now. It's not just about that time limit. Everything else does come into account now, and Virtus.Pro know it. They're holding the line perfectly. No need to push aggressively. They're fine as they are. We actually do see one of the players who were pushed up actually falling back. That's Rest in Peace. Took a shell, going to play passively now. It's a smart thing to do. He doesn't want to risk anything at this point, as they do have that advantage. So, what do you think is going to take it for... how do you think Dragonborns are now going to bring the fight to Virtus.Pro?
It's going to be really hard. I mean, Dragonborns picking a place straight away where it would be hard for them to push.
Yep.
If they wanted to, they have to drive across an open field, which is fine because you've got these defilades through the middle. But, you know, at some point you're going to have to go in the open. Some point you have to get in a situation where you're splitting attack. You can't just push in one position. You've got to at least have an AMX 3090 tier 8 to push up one side. So Dragonborns will have to drive across the open. Virtus.Pro can sit in the middle, behind their cover, behind their trains, behind their railroad, even on the hill and in the village. So they have their cover, they have the advantage, and Dragonborns, they know this, but they're pushing anyway.
Yeah, well, they've got to. There's only 35 seconds left on that board. Just Cause still on patrol, keeping eyes on, as you said, across that open field that could be such trouble, and he has caught a glimpse of Crux there, making his way forward in that T69. This could be the signal that Virtus.Pro now have to hunker down and play this one smart. Retract him back, and Melka sitting further away in that T69, readjusting accordingly, trying to find the right angle to be able to take this one on and not lose anything. With 15 seconds left, they've got to play this one smart. Now, let's see exactly who's going to land that first shell here. We do see Crux now edging closer in T69. He has received a shell, and it's not going Dragonborn's way at the moment. 132 taken out by Delight, as now the rest of Dragonborns come flooding across, but Virtus.Pro stand tall, and what a game from Virtus.Pro there. That was fantastically played. Held it back right onto that last moment, and then just stepped up and said, okay, come at me, bro. And, well, that's exactly kind of the downfall of Dragonborns then. Wow.
Really well played with Virtus.Pro, and it's that thing, you know, you step 1 foot out of line against a team like Virtus.Pro and you're gone. Dr. probably a moment, probably less than a second, where he moved out of position, he went up behind the house, got himself on higher ground where he could get sniped down because of the AMX 3090. He doesn't have the gun depression to shoot threaten in the AMX 3090 along that defilade, that hill. But Dr. went too far up, focused down. Melka was there, Rest in Peace was there, Kusok was there. Bish Bash Bosh done. 8 tier point limit for Virtus.Pro. They just had to wait until the end. Dragonballs had to push. Virtus.Pro had the cover advantage. They had the firepower. They had the skill and the perseverance to win that one. And that's what you expect from a team like that.
Wow, what a way to kick things off. If you obviously saw Virtus.Pro on the first game we watched up against GF Gaming, you might think, why are they so well known for that map? Why are they so good at that map? And I think we just kind of seen why. They played it perfectly. If there was an initial exchange, they'd still retain the advantage. they got a little bit of a disadvantage against them. They lost that T1. They evened the score. They took the advantage further into their favor by tier points, and then they just said, okay, guys, we can sit back. We can wait for them to come to us. The time limit is on our side. Then they played it smart. I love that. They're so good on every single front right now. But Dragonborns, I don't think they did anything wrong. I think there was a couple of silly moves by an individual who maybe, obviously stayed still a little bit too long there and got caught out. But it wasn't, they played it badly. There's just, they played into the hands of Virtus.Pro. So we will be going to the second map, obviously, and the advantage will be sitting with Virtus.Pro on this one. But it's steps now. We did discuss it earlier on. But recap us over how you feel about this map and who you think is going to take the advantage.
Well, I did say Virtus.Pro have the experience. They have 4 seasons of Star Ladder under their belt. Pretty long time. It was a year of playing that map. Dragonborns definitely don't have that experience. I mean, we played it at Eurosteel 2012. Not so well, I must admit. It was like really hard for us to play a map we've never played before. It wasn't go for what, but it's not just game time on the map. So definitely Virtus.Pro have their advantage. But if Dragonborns do something unusual, something they're not expecting, something which you don't see other teams do, suddenly Dragonborns could get themselves back into the game. And the last thing you want to do is go 2-0 down against Virtus.Pro. But Dragonborns, they're going to really struggle on this one.
Yeah, so they are getting the tank picking underway, and let's see exactly what they're going to be going for on this map. We do see a couple of picks already coming through, and Magus once again? Really?
Yeah, he's gone for those 2 Lich Tractors again. I'm not sure if this is some sort of Uber meta that I can't even fathom. Maybe he's just an absolute genius, and he's found something which no one else has found. But you would expect, 12 pro teams, they all pick the same tank. So Dragonborn's going for the 2 Lich Tractors. It's kind of one of those things where you go, why? Have they got a supercomputer working this out for them? But there might be a reason for it. The other tanks being picked, T69, AMX 1390s, you would expect. This is your AMX 1390 map. Very fast. Can get across the map very quickly. This is a tactic you see quite often is teams cheese capping. And our last pick from Dragonborns will be a WZ132. So 3
curious
picks.
choices. Yeah,
3 curious choices from them. It's the most we've seen all season. Obviously, that tier 8 Chinese medium tank, probably being driven by Crooks. Yes, it is indeed being driven by Crooks. He was the pioneer of that tank.
Yeah, I don't think he's given it a bad showing. I think every time he's picked it, it's gone okay. I don't think we've seen it shine as of yet, really. But I think there's still time to, and there'll be no better opponent than Virtus.Pro. But a map that's so defining, as we said before, Virtus.Pro are the team who can make the most of a good situation. They won't let it slip. And when they do, obviously it can cost them their lovely clean record, so they certainly won't be doing it again. But to take these 3 strange picks on steps, I don't know how they're going to be using it.
We'll have to see. We'll have to see. The Lich Tractor, I guess it could be a better tank if you just sit it in a place to defend, which is what we often see on steps. He sits in a bush, defends a cap or defends a flank. But it's a tricky pick. We'll have to see how that one works out. Do keep an eye on it throughout the game. WZ132, more standard. I mean, we have got that 250 damage gun, the tier 8, very good gun, very accurate, very fast firing, has a very good aim down time, which is really important. It's a kind of a classic counter to AMX 1390s. It can sit there, 6-second reload, pummel those AMX 1390s while they're reloading. Very, very important. But, Crooks has to be careful that he doesn't get focused down. If he gets focused down, that advantage will go immediately, and suddenly the AMX 1390 will be a lot better.
Well, it's going to come down to those individual plays, and looking at who's going to be driving those 1390s, it's not going to be an easy task for the guy. I almost feel for him, but if he pulls it off, all credit where credit's due. It's certainly a match to prove himself almost in that tank. I think this could be a defining moment. As you said, it can come down to if they obviously focus him or if he can somehow find his role within this map. But your quick prediction on this, who are you going to go for?
I'm going to say Dragonborns takes it, but they have to get that execution. I think, as I said, the WZ132 will be key. They can't rush into situations like they did against Virtus.Pro. If they don't do that, then certainly a team that can do and they can win this one. But it's going to be like one tank part. Well,
we're going to have to find out because we are ready to go into the one and only steps. So welcome to Steps. We will be seeing Virtus.Pro starting on the north in blue, whereas in the south it will be Dragonborns in that golden yellow. So let's have a little look here exactly how they plan on starting this one out. You said it before that a couple of tank picks are going to be really pivotal between these two, mostly for Dragonborns rather than Virtus.Pro. But what are we seeing early on from these guys? Where are they heading towards? And do you think we can see an early exchange happening here?
Well, Dragonborns going towards the eastern side of the map, that trench side. Pretty standard, although, you know, you'd say perhaps there's more of a Virtus.Pro tactic. We did see them do it quite a lot. It didn't work out against Dinova. You know, Dinova did win this one in the last couple of match days. Yeah. But, you know, Virtus.Pro certainly could be surprised if a team uses their own tactic against them. It's certainly something that can happen. Dr. Tour straight away spotting out Just Cause, but they won't have the reload quite yet. He does take a neck one. Luckily for him, Magus goes down to a Melka. But, you know, Dragonborns, they have to climb these steps. You know, Virtus.Pro have been kind of slipping down a bit, but Dragonborns have to go up here. They have to win this one. And Dr. Tour taking the first shot, Magus going down. It's certainly not a step in the right direction.
Yeah, they're going to have to be careful on this because Rest in Peace is now pushing forward in that 1390 straight towards Dr. Tur. Just going to detour off and reposition by the rock, keep eyes on. But you can see that Virtus.Pro are not scared by someone using their own strats against them almost. They're happy to adjust and happy to readjust accordingly and reevaluate the situation. You see the T69, they're just eyeing up next to Kusok in his T69. Sitting back, we do see Delight. Rest in Peace push forward. And a little bit of a scatter of the T1s towards the center of the map. But brave move from Dragonborns to kind of challenge them at their own strategy here. Yeah,
certainly a brave move. I mean, even a braver move to put, well, Yukai and Panzerstransky in their T69s right in the middle of the field. I mean, they have a bush to cover them, but that's pretty much it. And, you know, these bushes, they're so thin, they're only going to be able to provide a few percents of camo, probably about 20, maybe 30% if they're lucky. And now they're just in the open. So Virtus.Pro, all they have to do is catch them out in the middle, use the spotting range of the MX-1390. Yes, indeed, we do the first shot. The second shot, Panzerstransky and Yukai receiving one each. Yukai receiving a third one, actually going down to 8-4-1 as the shells just come raining in, and that's what you get when you sit in the middle of the field against Virtus.Pro.
Certainly is it. Melka and Kusok's eyes are trained on these two. Rest in Peace, just spotting them out for him and allowing the shots to come flying into the opposition. That 1390 of Dr. Tour once again rearing its head above the defilade of the hill and then subtracting back. Oh, a couple of shots coming in from Rest in Peace. No connections though. But damage certainly in favor to Virtus.Pro currently, who've just managed it so well. They know every single hill and rock and bush on this map inside out, and they know exactly how to play it. They've barely shown their hand at this point. And Melka did get damaged a touch, but 1-1-7-1. It's not exactly a a massive amount of damage towards him. So very well played from Virtus.Pro at the moment. But what's it going to take to make them edge forward, or do you think they're just going to wait it out? They don't have to, as such, in your mind, or how do you think this one's going to play out here? Oh, actually, a little bit of a change. Crete has gone down to Crux, so evening the score up, losing two tier 1 tanks as such on both sides, and Dr. Tour once again reappearing, just keeping Virtus.Pro on their toes. Couple of shells back and forthing, but no further connections. Indeed,
they are back and forthing, but, you know, Dragonborns, they're the team that can do the kind of fast strategies very well if they get the execution right. Virtus.Pro is the team that in a one-on-one situation where they're very similar in terms of, you know, what the cover they have. I mean, these two sides are not that there's no real advantage if you have the north or the south side. But Virtus.Pro, they're always going to win this kind of back and forwards engagement. You know, when you're getting a shot here, you're getting a shot there. They have the more calm, they're more vision of a team. But, you know, Dragonborns, they have to make a move. They have to perhaps get themselves out of there, see if they can retreat, see if they can reset the fight and push in for a real killer. Yeah, well, Kusok did receive a shell there, and Rest in Peace backing away now, as is Delight. Maybe a little bit of a wake-up call to these guys, so they can't be too hap-handed against Dragonborns. A rather capable side at the very least, and Threaten just seeing if he can make sure that tank did retract from Rest in Peace, and it has. So these guys now just amalgamating towards the, well, C8 point. Literally 4 tanks now in this defilade, just
looking across his field, waiting for another peek. You can see Yukai has shown up again, but will either of these take the shot? There's the question. Are they daring enough to peer out? Just Cause has made a lovely little push there. Great play coming around that 1390, shooting straight across into Yukai, taking him down to a mere 98 HP in that T69. This is fantastic play from Just Cause. Brave play, to say the very least, as now 2 tanks are completely and utterly chasing him down.
Yeah, Yukai sitting in the middle of the open. I'm not sure why they continue sitting there. Crook's trying to land a shot onto Kuzok. Not doing any damage, though, but now we're seeing a push. Threaten AMX39 goes 2 versus 1. It's Rest in Peace, Delight versus Threaten. Rest in Peace takes some damage. No, he's doing a lot of damage. Finally connecting the last shot onto Threaten. He goes down AMX3090 style, but Panzerstransky's got to get himself into this game.
He does indeed, as Dr. Tur is in severe trouble now. Delight and Rest in Peace there. Shells are coming on to Rest in Peace, though, who's going to have to back away as they're not just going to be handed this one on a plate. Just Cause finding Yukai, though. Now I'm going to back away. He's been tracked himself, actually. More shells coming in from that T69. Panzer is now closing in on him rather quickly. That 1390 needs to get the hell out of there and find a better way to challenge these two right now.
Just Cause is going to be getting his tail between his legs and scampering away. Panzerstransky has the reload. He definitely has the damage. He can do it. Dr. Tur sitting on 189. That's probably going to be a one-shot for any of Virtus.Pro's tank, obviously, apart from Las Vegas, sitting in that T1 Cunningham. But look at Crooks. WZ132 is only taking 1 shot. Obviously, the WZ132 doesn't have the advantage of the extra 1 to 400 HP of the other Tier 8 tanks. But if he can use this real fast-firing gun, he can start to really pummel down Virtus.Pro. But Dr. Tur, I think he's a goner here.
Yeah, he very well could be. And Crux showing his face again, Just Cause darting away. You can see the shells are coming in, and Melka receiving 1. Going to reply 1 back, though, lands perfectly onto Dr. Tur. So now trying to even things up and keep that advantage. Even though they're so heavily damaged, they're still getting the frags in the bag, as Crux now surrounded by the opposition. He has got 1. Ammo racked again. We've seen that twice in one day. That's fantastic. As Delight did find Crux, and now Panzer has to somehow find a way back into this, but I highly doubt he can do.
No, definitely not. Crooks were a little bit too haphazard with that push, pushing around, taking the bait of Las Vegas, sitting in that T1. Shouldn't have done that, should have stayed behind the bush, should have tried and found a Melka with a couple of his shots. Perhaps even Delight, I believe he's sitting quite low in his AMX3090, and just play out like that. He's got Panzerstransky back in the T69. He's got the firepower of that T69 backing him up, but he didn't have to push. But look at Kusok sitting so high on his HP, 915, doing the final shot. T69 taking down Panzerstransky, no problem at all. And now we have the Licht Tractor to try and do the final blow to Virtus.Pro, but nah, it's not going to happen. Yeah.